County High School football show alongside Andrew Simonson. I am Alec Etheridge, and we're excited for this moment, the final week of the regular season, but also a bittersweet moment as it's going to be the final week of the season for several of our teams. Before we do jump into the playoffs, we do have several teams that have made the postseason this year and several that have a strong chance to make a run at a state championship and a deep run in the playoffs as well. But we focus on this week, and that is that we've made it, 11 weeks now through the regular season to our final week here. And we've got a good slate of games. We do have 3 teams on bye this week. Thompson and Helena both off, both heading into a home playoff game the week after this. The Cornerstone Chargers also sitting in that same situation with a bye week this week before they jump into postseason action as well. So before we jump in, Andrew, let's look at this season as a whole and the excitement that we have, obviously, as we get one last full Friday night here of the regular season.
Yeah, it's been a great season for so many teams. I think we knew coming into the season that this year was going to be strong, but be sitting here with this many playoff teams, and specifically with this many home playoff games that we're going to have next week, we really are in for a treat coming up for this next month. But it's been a great run with so many great teams. Even the teams that won't be joining us in late November still gave us some great moments throughout the season. And I think all in all, the season was a pretty big success within Shelby County.
Yeah, and we go to this final week of the regular season, and we've got a lot of exciting matchups. Obviously, you've got some games that may mean a little bit more to some teams because it is that final game of the regular season, while some are getting tuned up for the playoffs. So when you look across the slate of games, we've obviously got our game of the week right here at Herbmont Park and Herbmont Stadium. That's going to be Oak Mountain Chelsea. But beyond that, some good games this week. Payne Park hitting the road to take on Gardendale, Vincent and Montevallo in a county battle. So what are you looking forward to most as we hit this final week of the regular season?
I think it's going to be that Payne Park game, simply because can we see a historic 10-0 finish from the Jags? Obviously, this team already locked into a 1 seed. Their opponents still to be determined. We're in for a great stretch with these Jags come the postseason time. But you know they're going to be motivated to get this. Finishing undefeated, it says a lot about where you are as a program if you do so, and I know these kids definitely want it as well, and this community in Hoover would be absolutely thrilled to finish with a perfect 10-0 record. Luckily, they should have a good shot at that going on the road against a Gardendale side.
Yeah, you look at what Payne Park's done so far this season, 9-0, undefeated to this point. It's their first 9-0 start in school history. Want to go into the playoffs with confidence, but at the same time, you want to go in healthy as well. So it should be interesting to see what the Jags are able to do there if they can make history with that first undefeated regular season in school history. You got Pelham taking on Fort Payne, coming off of a strong showing against Leeds last week. You got Briarwood and McAdory, a Briarwood team that's the hottest in the county, in my opinion, maybe next to Payne Park, going into this final week of the regular season and sadly going to miss the playoffs. So I think you're going to get a good effort from the Lions as well. So those are just a few of many games that we've got taking place this week. So let's jump in. Let's talk about all of the action that we've got ahead. Let's start right here with our game of the week between the 280 area rivals in Oak Mountain and Chelsea. Before we talk about our game of the week right here at Herbmont Park, I want to tell you about proud sponsors 3D Air Services right here in Shelby County. They've called Shelby County home since 2005. 3D Air Services is more than just your trusted HVAC company. They're your neighbors, friends, and supporters. Since 2005, they've proudly called Shelby County home, and they're proud sponsors of the Oak Mountain Eagles, several other teams here on our Shelby County High School football show. They're your trusted neighbor, keeping Shelby County comfortable, one home and business at a time. Make sure to give our friend Jay Carr and his certified team a call, 205-664-3501, 205-664-3501, 3dairservices.com. It's one of the best rivalry battles that we get right here in Shelby County. It's going to be Oak Mountain hosting Chelsea in a battle of 280 area rivals, and just like they've done every year, the last several years, the Chick-fil-A just down the road here at the intersection of 119 and 280, all decorated out with each of these teams and their cheerleaders and fans getting together there, painting the windows with the Gooms and the Chelseas and the Go Hornets and all that. So the build-up's there all week this week. As they have that competition at Chick-fil-A to see who gets the most points there. And then they're going to be battling on this field behind us to see who can put the most points on the scoreboard and pick up a win here in this fun rivalry battle. And this is a game featuring two teams that Andrew, Chelsea off to that hot start, one of the best starts they've had in school history, and then they start to hit that struggle. They've played their most difficult stretch now, 3 losses in a row. Oak Mountain, they've had their share of struggles. A little bit of a strong start early in the season and trickled down since then, but a little bit of promise last week that we saw from the Eagles. And now we know in this one, Chelsea has a game after this. They go on the road in the first round of the playoffs the week after this. This is it for Willowdale and those seniors in Oak Mountain looking to pull off a win. So it's an intriguing matchup, to say the least, between these two.
It absolutely is, and one where I'm probably gonna have to keep my mouth shut at Chick-fil-A if I go this week. Don't want to be looking like I'm picking a side in this one. But
very careful of the color shirt that you wear into the Chick-fil-A this week.
Listen, I've been trying to choose my shirts carefully all season long. But you look at this game, and it really is got to be a get-right game for both of these two teams because of like what you just mentioned. These two teams, by and large, moving in the opposite direction. Obviously, Chelsea a little bit more so coming off of that shutout loss against Benjamin Russell. Each of the past 3 weeks, they've fallen in seeding. You lose that battle for the 1 seed with Spain Park, lose the one for the 2 seed with Helena, and then you lose the battle for the 3 seed with Ben Russell, and now you're staring down a road trip to Saraland, which I don't think any team in the state wants, and these Chelsea Hornets, they're now going to have to gear up for that and use this game, hopefully, as a chance to get ready for that, get some more momentum heading into that one. But it's not going to be one that they're probably going to rest for, simply because this game means a lot to both communities, and you know that Oak Mountain is going to come out firing and looking to be ready to make a statement, particularly that offense, which saw a lot of bright spots last week against Hillcrest. Tuscaloosa scored 36 points against the Patriots right here at Herdmont Park. But the biggest issue that we continue to harp on throughout the season is the Oak Mountain defense, and that definitely showed last week. Hillcrest scored 50 points throughout that win, but perhaps most damaging to this Eagles team, Hillcrest scored a touchdown on every single drive it embarked on outside the one that ended the game. You can't have that. You need to have a defense that can at least somewhat keep a team out of the end zone. You think back a few years ago to maybe those Big 12 games where both teams had electric offenses, maybe didn't really have as big defenses. I was raised on those games. I really enjoy watching those games. But in order to win games here in the state of Alabama, you do need to have a strong defense, especially when you go up against a Chelsea side that can also score some points and could be about as devastating to this defense as Hillcrest was last week. I do think they have a little less offensive firepower than Hillcrest does, which opens up potentially some room for this team to maybe gain some traction on the defensive end. But I do think it's by and large going to be a shootout, simply because of what we've seen out of these two defenses over the past few weeks.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued by this matchup because Chelsea's just going the wrong direction. And that second half against Helena gave me hope for them moving forward. They finally showed that they could face that adversity and come back and score some points. And then last week, it just baffled me. I did not expect them to go in and lose that game 34-0 against Benjamin Russell, mainly because Benjamin Russell's defense has not been that good this year. And if you're able to play within 10 points against Helena like Chelsea did the week before, you expect that that's going to be at least a competitive game against Benjamin Russell. So I just wonder where this team is right now from a confidence standpoint when you look at the Chelsea Hornets. Overall, though, the physicality and the approach they come with is going to make this an intriguing game, going to give them a strong opportunity. But Oak Mountain, the seniors, this game is the game, especially when you've got no postseason to look forward to. And that's another thing that goes against Chelsea here. They need to be healthy as they can possibly be, so that they can go all out in a physical battle with Saraland the week after this. Oak Mountain, it boils down to this. These seniors don't want to go out with a loss to Chelsea as the final thing that they have. And early in the season, that was their big thing to start the year. When they had that hot start, 3-2 out of the gate, it was because they wanted to come out and win football games as that senior class. And I think that's going to be what makes a big difference in this one this week, to be honest with you. So, Andrew, did you give your pick?
I did not. The one thing that I will say in my caveat to it being a shootout, like I said earlier, is that Chelsea is going to have to come out and show a lot more offensive effort than they have the past few weeks. I think this offense still has potential to make this a really high-flying game, but it's going to need to be some of that offense that we saw throughout the first few weeks of the season and not what we saw through the last 3 weeks. Bottom line, this team is really going to need to come out and take the fight to Oak Mountain in a hostile road environment here at Herdmont Park to be able to do that. And I'm not really sure this team has the confidence. I do know that they have the motivation. I'm just not sure if they have it right now in the confidence aspect to be able to come out here, beat a tough Class 7A opponent, and and come out to win a rivalry game that the other side is going to be going even more all out for. So I think at the end of the day, Oak Mountain makes a few more big plays than Chelsea does, ends up walking out of here with a win. But Chelsea still could very much walk away with a win in this one.
Yeah, I think Chelsea's offense will have success. You look at Oak Mountain giving up 42 or more in 3 straight games, 28 or more in all of their games, but 1 so far this season. But the offense finally got back on track for them a little bit last week. Will O'Dell with a huge game, had a couple of turnovers, but offensively overall, he, Zach Fitzgerald, both played incredible football games last week. I think the offense is going to come out, play a good football game, and Chelsea coming off of a shutout, 34-0 loss to Benjamin Russell, a defense that struggled throughout the season. Oak Mountain's defense doesn't necessarily have to be perfect in this one. I'd say go out, let it loose, let it fly, have fun offensively, see what happens. I think that's going to lead them to a win. I think Chelsea just going to be a little too reserved as they go into the postseason. I know they want to get some confidence back, but you don't want to take too many chances. I know they want this one. I know they want to beat Oak Mountain, but Oak Mountain just has everything to play for in this one, and no reason for Chelsea to take chances. So I think the Eagles on their home field are going to soar in this one and pick up a big rivalry win. There's no coincidence that the Spain Park Jaguars have this historic 9-0 season, and Scooters Coffee jumps on board as a proud sponsor of the Spain Park Jaguars, and that's because they're both champions. They are championship culture right there at Scooters Coffee. They're supporting the Spain Park Jaguars during this historic season, and before you go to a game, as you head down 280 in Inverness, in Chelsea, whether you're going to Auburn, Tuscaloosa, high school football, doing your holiday shopping, stop by Scooters Coffee in Inverness, right next to Home Depot and Chipotle, out in Chelsea next to Buffalo Wild Wings. Make sure you get your caffeine fix, but it's so much more than just that caffeine fix as well. They've got so many different things. They've got those smoothies, fusion drinks, blenders, any kind of drink you can think of, they're going to have right there at Scooters Coffee. Right now, Halloween week, they've got that trick-or-treat blender, the trick-or-treat cake bites. It's Halloween right there in a cake bite or in a cup to drink. You've got that. You've got the caramel green apple smoothie. You've got the Caramelicious, plain or with pumpkin, the caramel crunch, pumpkin chai latte, pumpkin this, pumpkin that. They've got it all right there. The maple bourbon latte as well. So many great drinks that you can get at Scooters Coffee, but they've also got those omelet bites. You can get your energy fix. You can get your breakfast burritos, your pretzel snackers, whatever it may be at Scooters Coffee. So anything you need, breakfast, lunch, dinner, energy fix, drink, whatever it's going to be, they're going to take care of you at Scooters Coffee right there on Highway 280. Quick service. They're going to have you in and out at both locations. So make sure you give them a visit. Support the Spain Park Jaguars this year by supporting Scooters Coffee. The Spain Park Jaguars have improved to 9-0 for the first time in school history after last week's 37-6 win over Chilton County, and now they've got a 14-game win streak dating back to last season. And I looked at last year's end. I think we talked about it at the end of the year last year on the show, and how if Spain Park had gotten into the playoffs last year, would have been a dangerous team in 7A, and now they've carried that momentum into this year. Now a 14-game winning streak, one of the best teams in a 6A classification, and they just continue to roll and get better and better, in particular on the defensive side of the football, Andrew. Now they hit the road. They take on Gardendale. That undefeated season on the line when it comes to finishing the regular season. Undefeated, a huge opportunity for the Jags in this matchup against Gardendale.
Absolutely. This is the Gardendale side that really has shown it's had a potent offense at times during the season. They've scored more than 33 points in over half of their games this season. But you look at the Spain Park defense, and it's playing really well against teams that are about this level as well. I'd say Gardendale more towards the line of some of the lower end teams within this region, and Spain Park has had zero trouble getting past those teams within region play. So I really do think that the Jags are going to come out, make sure that they have a big night. I mean, like we mentioned last week, they're going to want to make sure they get out to a quick start so they can get in, let the backups have some time in there, and then ultimately rest up against what is in line right now for a McGill-Tulane showdown over there at Jag Stadium, but could change a lot based off of what we see down there in Region 1, because they're still playing ultimately at the end of the day. And that could be another big thing that goes in Spain Park's favor, is those Region 1 teams are still fighting for that last spot within the playoffs to go up to Spain Park. Spain Park able to take this one a little bit easier, and then you come off of a couple bigger blowouts as well against Calera and Chilton County in your last 2 games. So I really do think that all the things are trending in this one towards a big Spain Park win. I expect another big offensive showing that is on the back of a absolutely dominant defensive performance.
Yes, I agree 100%. And honestly, we talk a little bit about teams trying to get into the postseason healthy. This is a Spain Park team that's as deep as it's been in a long time. They've got a ton of weapons offensively. The defense is so talented. I don't think they're as worried about that. I think they just want to keep the train rolling at this point, and they don't want to change up anything that they've been doing so that they can carry that momentum into the postseason. So I think they come out. I think they play extremely well, just like what we saw last week. Come out, get off to a hot start. You look at what they've been able to do defensively lately. They've given up 7 or less in 4 straight and 5 times this season. Meanwhile, like you said, Gardendale's shown that they can score points. They've scored as many as 51. They've scored 33 or more in 5 of their 9 games so far this season, but they've scored 10 or less against James Clemens, Parker, and Homewood. And what they have in common is that they're very good defensive football teams. Spain Park has become one of the best defensive football teams in the 6A classification this year with what they've been able to do. Now giving up just 14.7 points per game. I don't see Gardendale scoring a ton of points. I also think Spain Park comes out, plays well, puts together a very solid performance, and I think this is a team that can carry it into at least the quarterfinals, if not the semifinals or a state championship appearance here in the 6A classification. So a great chance for the Jaguars to carry on that momentum here and pick up that first 10-0 regular season in school history. The Calera Eagles going to host Stanhope Elmore here to close down the regular season, a matchup of 2 teams that aren't headed to the playoffs. So this is it. This is their final game of the year, and I can tell you that just judging from the way that this Calera football team has improved this year under first-year head coach Scott Riles, they're going to be ready to roll with this one. This is a team that's building for the future. They want to continue to get a better and better taste in their mouths, and this is a prime opportunity to do that. And a game of 2 teams that are fairly evenly matched when you look at what both of them have done so far this season. So Andrew, when you break this one down, Calera's offense still seems to be a pretty consistent bunch. The defense is still struggling a good bit, but this is a team that, with that offensive firepower that they have, you've got a 3-6 Calera team, a 4-6 Stanhope Elmore team. Pretty good opportunity for the Eagles to try to go into the offseason with a win.
Yeah, and that offense is keeping this team in a lot more games than they probably should have. They probably should be, given what the Calera defense is allowing up. Obviously, I got to watch Calera play last week against Helena, and you look at what Helena was able to do throughout the game, which is just pound the run throughout the game and really find a lot of dominance on the outside in that aspect. But Calera, just like that, they were able to turn the ball around and be able to get some big plays downfield, or work the ball downfield with some first down runs, or some other big plays. You saw a big kick return from Katie Young along with the penalty that set up a good chance for Calera as well. So this team has the athletes, like we've always been saying, to really make some plays happen at the drop of a hat. And that's what's going to keep them dangerous in a game like this one. I know Stanhope Elmore's defense is giving up just 22.9 points per game, and these 2 teams are only separated by just a couple of points on the offensive side when you look at their averages. But I think that Calera's propensity for big plays is going to help them out a lot in this one, especially if they do what they did last week as well, which is pair that with a run game that allows them to chew some more time off the clock, be able to get a little bit more time with possession with the ball, and limit Stanhope Elmore's opportunities to score against that suspect defense that the Eagles have. So I do think that at the end of the day, Calera is going to make the plays that they need to get past Stanhope Elmore. This could be a really fun one, a really good, fun offensive game that we have for you down in Calera. But I think at the end of the day, the Eagles have shown enough to me throughout some of their games throughout the season that they're going to end this one with a win.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, Calera is definitely the offense that has the chance to make the more explosive plays in this game. They can definitely get out there. They can sling it around. They can get some big-time plays. They can score in a hurry, and that's what's going to make this an entertaining football game. But right now, when you look at it, 16 points per game on the defensive side of the football between these 2 teams in favor of Stanhope Elmore. That's just a lot to overcome defensively, and that's my only worry going into this matchup. I really do think Calera probably is the better team when you look at what they can do from a possibility standpoint. But that defense just has not shown it consistently enough. And in this one, I do think that it could turn into a shootout-style game, and that would benefit Calera. And I do think that's probably what's going to happen at the end of the day, but I still just can't get over that. That's a lot of points when you look at more than 2 touchdowns difference on the defensive side of the football. And I know Calera's played a really tough schedule, and that could favor them in this one, but it's one where I'm going to have to see the defense go out and make some game-changing plays there to be able to pick up a win. But regardless, like you said, this offense is so much fun to watch. A.J. Johnson's such a talent. at quarterback, and they've got some speedy wideouts that they can score in a hurry. So regardless of what the score looks like throughout, Calera's not ever going to be out of this game, and they're going to have a chance to win this game there in the second half. So it should be an entertaining football game. I think we both think this could be a sneaky good game, probably one of the best games of the week this week. So well worth the price of admission if you get in down there in Calera for that battle with Stanhope Elmore. As the Pelham Panthers prepare to end the season with a big win this week, they're going to want to be hot on the football field, and soon enough you're going to want to be hot in your home too as you crank that heater on in the middle of winter, and you're going to want to call 3D Air Services right here in Shelby County to make sure that you're tuned up and ready to go with your HVAC system. They're going to take care of all of your HVAC needs throughout the high school football season as you hit those colder months, but also when we get back into spring and those warmer months next year, they're going to take care of your air conditioner then as well. Whether you want to get it tuned up, whether you run into an issue that first time you crank the heat on this year, make sure to give them a call. 205-664-3501, 205-664-3501, 3dairservices.com. Jay Carr and his certified team going to take great care of you and come out, figure out what's going on, get you tuned up, have you ready to roll in no time with that great customer service and local community feel. They're going to take great care of you. Make sure you give them a call, 205-664-3501, 3dairservices.com. The Pelham Panthers now sit at 1-8 overall in the season. After 4 straight losses to start the year, they've now lost 4 more in a row and have just 1 win. But Andrew, they're coming off of a big-time performance against Leeds, one of the top teams in the 5A classification. They lose 35-28 on a game that went down to the final 40 seconds there on the road to take on Leeds last week. Ultimately do fall by 7 in a 35-28 game. But a positive step for this team a week ago. Now they're back at home to close down the regular season. They welcome back former coach in Shelby County and Chris Elmore, who now leads Fort Payne. He brings his team, used to be at Chelsea, now at Fort Payne, brings his team in to face a familiar foe in the Pelham Panthers. And this is a team in Fort Payne doesn't have a ton to play for. Sitting at 7-2, they've won 7 consecutive games after an 0-2 start, sitting as region champions as well after going 6-0 in region play. So not really a ton for this team to play for as they head into the postseason. Want to stay healthy as they look to make a run in the playoffs. Pelham, in the meantime, is a team that is growing and building for the future. Similar to what we just talked about with Calera, this is a Pelham football team that's very young and has shown some growth throughout the season. So this is a big opportunity for them against a really good football team to compete and possibly win a big game going into the offseason.
Yeah, and if they didn't have that performance last week against Leeds, I wouldn't really have any confidence in picking Pelham. I'd argue even in a losing effort, that was their best performance of the season, simply because I said this last week, I did not know how the offense was going to keep up with a Leeds offense that ranks among the best in Class 5A. And what did they do? They made it a 1-score game and were tied going into the final seconds. That's a phenomenal step forward from where they were in the past few weeks when they were playing some of the top teams within their region and struggling when doing so. So I really do think that this Pelham team is starting to round a little bit of a corner and starting to play its best football towards the end of the season. Now, obviously, we know they're not going to make the playoffs. This is going to be it for them. So they're going to go all out and make sure that they can send off the few seniors that they do have on a good note while continuing to build for the future with that majority young roster that they have there. But at the end of the day, I do think that Fort Payne is just rolling too much on both ends of the ball. We've seen the dominance that they're able to do up in that region. 6 wins overall, 6 of their region opponents, and they're scoring 31.7 points per game, giving up 16.2. I don't think this Pelham team is going to completely regress to the form it had within the past few games before that performance against Leeds. I do think, though, that this defense could potentially cause some problems for this Pelham offense to the point where it may not be as close of a game as it potentially could be. But I do think that this one may be able to be close for a while as Pelham goes all out and is able to keep this one close, especially if Fort Payne does choose to take a rest approach ahead of next week. But I do think at the end of the day, Fort Payne will prove to be the better team and then walk away with that victory.
Yeah, and I don't know. I can't speak for other coaches. I can only speak for how I would do it if I were a coach.
Right.
And I would say halftime regardless, we're sitting the rest of the game with the starters. That's just what makes sense to me when you've got a 1 seed going into the playoffs. There's no reason to risk anything. And so it's going to go one of two ways. Either Stanhope's going to come out and build up a big lead and then rest everybody in the second half, or they're going to come out. It's going to be a little bit of a slow start. We're going to see a close game, and I think it stays close through the second half. So for Pelham, the only thing you can control is to come out and give your best foot forward. And I think that's what we're going to see from the Panthers in this game. They've got a lot to build off of last week. They've shown promise at times throughout the season. It's a team that could have won 3 games in a row at one stretch, lost all 3 in really tight football games there in the early portion of the year. Now you come off with a confidence-boosting tight game, even though they lose that one by 7 to Leeds last week against a good football team. I think they carry that over. I think we're going to see a pretty good football game here in this matchup, but ultimately the way that Fort Payne is playing defensive football right now is the key. And this Pelham team just hasn't shown enough consistency on the offensive side of the football. So that's where I find some struggles going into this one when I search for a way for Pelham to be able to pick up a win. So ultimately that Fort Payne defense, a little too much for me to have faith in Pelham coming out with a win. But I do think this offense took a step forward last week and will continue to take steps forward going into this week and then into the offseason as they look to build for the future. So a chance for a huge win for the Pelham Panthers to close out the regular season against a really good defensive football team in Fort Payne. There's no team on a bigger heater right now than the Briarwood Lions, and speaking of heaters, probably need to get it tuned up. It's that time of year. We're just a few weeks away. I promise that cold air is coming, and you're going to want to call 3D Air Services to make sure you're tuned up and ready to go for the winter months with that heater. They're going to take care of all of your HVAC needs all year long, air conditioner, heater, whatever it may be. They're going to get you taken care of there at 3D Air Services. They've proudly called Shelby County home since 2005. They're proud sponsors of the Briarwood Lions and several other teams right here on the Shelby County High School football show, and they're going to get you geared up. Great customer service. They can handle anything with your HVAC, whether it's the heater, whether it's the air conditioner. They're going to get you tuned up and ready to roll. Make sure you give them a call, 205-664-3501, 205-664-3501. Jay Carr and his certified team going to take great care of you. 3dairservices.com for more. Well, the Briarwood Lions have been one of the hottest teams in the 5A classification the last 4 weeks. They've won 4 games in a row, and all by giving up 17 points or less, and they're now coming off of a 50-16 thumping of Hayden. So not only has this defense gotten better and better as the year has gone along, but they've also been consistent on that side of the football. The offense, however, has taken huge steps throughout the season to improve, and it's such a disappointment that we won't get to see this team in the playoffs. And you look at this team in the scheduling, just had a bye week a couple of weeks ago ahead of the Winona game. If they had this bye week ahead of the Winona game earlier in the season rather than 2 weeks ago, then they likely beat Winona in that situation, because that would have put the bye week right before Luke Reynolds came back, and it would have shifted that Winona game into him being healthy, and this team would have been in a different position than where they are now. Lost that game in a tight one, and it's ultimately going to be the one that keeps them out of the playoffs. So that's a tough situation, but when you look at this team, they know they're playing good football. They're confident. Now they take on McAdory, a chance to really close the season on a high note and win 5 games in a row, which is going to build the confidence of these younger players coming in that are going to be ready to come back next year. So a big opportunity for Briarwood this week at home against McAdory to be able to close out the season with a 5-game win streak.
Absolutely. And I was thoroughly impressed by what Briarwood was able to do last week. I think the passing game took another step up, arguably against a worse defense in Hayden. We've seen what they've done throughout the season, and then the defense just absolutely holding them lights out, shut them out until the underclassmen came in that one late in that game. So huge statement win in that region finale against Hayden, and it just continues to add to an incredible stretch for Briarwood, where they're giving up 17 points or less in all 4 of those wins that are in a row. And it really is a team that I think could go out and beat a lot of these different teams within both 5A. And now we're going to get a Class 6A challenge here in McAdory as well. Obviously, McAdory been a solid team at the 6A level, scoring 38.3 points per game, giving up 15.3 on that side. And this will definitely be a challenge for this Lions team. Of this stretch, I would argue McAdory is probably the best team that they're going to face in this stretch, and it could be a very, very entertaining football game. But I do think the reason for that is going to be this Briarwood team going all out, continuing to play its best brand of football, and looking to end this one on a statement win, which this would be. It would be an incredible win if they came out, beat McAdory, end the season with a 5-game win streak. I think at the end of the day, this team continues building on its momentum and is able to come out and get this victory over a McAdory team that we may or may not be resting ahead of the playoffs as well. Obviously, a home playoff game out for them in a couple weeks in McCalla. But I do think that this Lions team is going to come out, make sure they end the season on a high note, and that's really going to make the difference. Because when this team is playing at its best, I don't think anyone wants to face them.
Yeah, I think they want to make a statement. Mm-hmm. This is their playoff game. They want to come out. They want to make a statement and show that had we been in the 5A playoffs this year, we would have been a team competing for a state championship. And I think they want people to think about that, whether they do or not, going into the into the postseason, but also into the off season. When you look at next year, people will, when they face Briarwood, they realize, okay, this is the Briarwood of old when it comes to the physical defensive approach and the physical run game on the offensive side. And this is a good opportunity for them to make that statement when you look at what McAdory's done as a physical defensive football team. So you know they're going to come out play good defense, but going into the postseason, like we've talked about throughout the show, a 2 seed, they've got a home playoff game, no need to take chances. Briarwood's going to take all the chances in the world, and I think they win it. I think they're going to come out ready to make a statement on both sides of the football. The defense is just playing way too good right now. They've given up 20 or less in 6 consecutive games. I think they carry that defensive approach into this week, and the offense just has continued to get better and better. And honestly, last week, Luke Reynolds didn't have to do it all.
Right.
It was a really balanced attack all across the offense a week ago, and that's something I think they can carry into this week as well. So I think Briarwood has been building toward a moment where they're just going to put it all together. And we saw that a little bit last week against a weaker opponent, but against a really good opponent. And that's what you're going to get this week against McAdory. I think the Lions do that. I think they put it together. I think they have a dominant night on the defensive and offensive side. I think they put together a pretty big win here against McAdory. Before you head out of town this week to go watch the Montevallo Bulldogs against the Vincent Yellow Jackets, make sure you stop by there on Main Street in Montevallo. Support Main Street Montevallo and all the great businesses, the coffee shops, the restaurants, the boutiques, whatever it may be. They've got all of your needs. So make sure you do your job to support local. They support us on the football show. They support the Montevallo Bulldogs. So you make sure to support them in return. Shop local right there in Montevallo with Montevallo Main Street. And also they got these great events happening all throughout the year. This week we've got the Hometown Halloween on Thursday night, on Halloween night. So make sure you stop by that in downtown Montevallo. Great opportunity for the kids to get out, the families to get out and trick or treat right there on Main Street in Montevallo. Just one of their many great events that they've got throughout the season and just shows all the great things they do for the local community. So make sure you support those local businesses right there on Montevallo Main Street. We get a county battle between Vincent and Montevallo to close down the regular season here, and this is going to be a fun football game when you look at this one on paper. The Vincent Yellow Jackets entering off a little bit of a baffling loss to Greene County last week. Montevallo is looking to close out the regular season here. Vincent going to carry a 2 seed, a home playoff game into the postseason there a week later, whereas Montevallo, it's their final game of the season, of the 2024 season. So big opportunity for both of these teams. Vincent to carry some confidence into the postseason. Montevallo to build toward future growth here for the Bulldogs. And Vincent, like I said, coming off a 32-24 loss in a strange game against Greene County. Just wasn't their best game of the season. Just weren't clicking on all cylinders in that one. And it's really been the defense that's regressed a little bit the last few weeks that was so strong early in the season. Meanwhile, Montevallo fought back in a back-and-forth game with Jemison last week. Ultimately, they dropped their 8th straight game in a 30-22 loss there against Jemison. So both of these teams looking for just that little bit of confidence coming into this game. And honestly, I don't know which way it's going to go, Andrew. You got a 2A team in Vincent. Montevallo sitting as a 5A team, previously a 4A team. So regardless, Vincent's playing up several classifications no matter what. It's going to be a tough game for them, but also Montevallo struggling. So I don't know. I don't know which way this one's going to go.
You took the words right out of my mouth. This one is frankly a wild card simply because of the form that we've seen between these two teams. Obviously, you would generally look 5A matchup versus 2A matchup and go, why are these two teams playing each other? But obviously, this is a historic rivalry. Came back in last year's Jamboree, so really good to see these two teams be able to come out and renew this one on the football field in the regular season to close it out. But when you look at the struggles of 5A Montevallo versus the success of 2A Vincent, I really do think that these two teams are going to close the gap a little bit more and make this into a more of an entertaining football game. But to me, the thing for Vincent, you do get back Case and Fields a little bit in last week's game against Greene County, but ultimately this team really hasn't really played its best football within the past couple of weeks. That near loss to Isabella, that loss to Greene County. This team's been a little bit banged up, and as a result, hasn't been playing its best football that we've seen within the weeks leading up to that Tuscaloosa Academy game. This Vincent team definitely does need some confidence, but I think more than that, they want to come into the playoffs healthy. And when you look at the three-way mosh pit that's kind of ensued for that right to play Vincent in the other region that they're going to be matched up with as well, that matchup is still not to be determined, by the way, of who is coming to Vincent in a couple of weeks. So Vincent would ultimately have the advantage of being able to not have to play for anything in this game. And I think that at the end of the day, their goal is to just not get any more injuries and come into that one as healthy as possible, even if it does mean letting this Montevallo team creep into this one or ultimately win. Montevallo definitely played one of its better games of the season last week, albeit that was against a Jemison side that has been a considerably weak side, hadn't won a game since August of 2023 prior to that one. But I also look at the game against Sipsey Valley. This team is definitely moving in the right direction on the offensive side. It's going to be a question of whether the defense is going to be able to keep up with a high-powered Vincent attack that's really done some damage. Even within the past couple of weeks, was still able to put up some points, even in a diminished form against Greene County and Isabella. So I do think that Vincent, at the end of the day, would likely, if they were healthy enough, be able to grab one in this one. But I think Montevallo, with the momentum that they have, being able to play with house money, with all their cards on the table, really being able to come out and treat this like their playoff game, I think they're going to come out and get the win, although I really do think that Vincent could come back and make me eat my words very quickly, because this is a solid Jackets team.
I mean, it's seriously, there's no way to predict this game.
Right.
You really have no way to have a good feel for this game. The only thing that you can really look at is that there's such a large jump in the classifications between these two teams. And Vincent's, the difficult situation for the Yellow Jackets is it's a 2A team that needs to rest going into the playoffs, but they also don't have enough guys to really have a ton to back up those guys.
Right.
So that's what makes it a difficult situation. So I'll be interested to see what they do. To me, what that means is they're not going to be going all out on every single play, and you hate to say that. It's not something that you want to do as a competitor, and they may go out and do that. But to me, like you said, the most important thing for this team, if they want to make a postseason run, is to get healthy going into the playoffs. And last week, the defense didn't have to go all out, or didn't go all out, and they lose that game 32-24. And the defense has been what struggled the last few weeks, giving up 32 or more in 3 of the last 4 games. And I just don't see them flipping that switch to all of a sudden click again right now when they're just trying to get into the postseason healthy at this point. That said, they're taking on a Montevallo offense that's really, really struggled this year, scoring just 15.4 points per game. And so, I mean, everything you say, you can contradict yourself with another statement there.
Right.
That's what makes it such a challenge. But ultimately, like you said, Montevallo's playing for this one. It's their last game of the season. They want to win this one badly. Vincent, I think, wants to win it, obviously, but they know that they have bigger things ahead here over the next few weeks, and that is to win playoff game after playoff game. And to do so, you have to be ready to go and healthy when it comes to that stretch. So we'll see what the Vincent Yellow Jackets can do in this one. But Montevallo, I think, goes all out. I think they pick up the win here in this county battle. The Shelby County Wildcats, coming off of a bye week, now sitting at 7-2 overall on the season. They take on a 1-8 East Limestone team this week ahead of their home playoff game a week later. And Andrew, this one on paper looks to be very, very one-sided. I mean, literally completely opposite teams right now in how they're playing football and the points that they're scoring, the points that they're giving up. Everything favors Shelby County heavily in this one.
Yeah, let's just run through the numbers really quick since you just mentioned them. Shelby County scoring 32.7 points per game, including a big performance just 2 weeks ago against Selma. They get a bye week to rest up here before this one, and then giving up just 16.7 points as that defense continues to be solid. You flip that over to East Limestone, going up to there to play this matchup. 11.6 points per game on offense, giving up 36 on defense. So to me, this one feels fairly straightforward. I do think that Shelby County is going to come out, have a massive offensive day, be able to set the pace from there, and I don't really think East Limestone is going to find much of, if any, traction in this one against a solid, stout Shelby County defense. They'll probably make some plays like we saw a couple weeks ago against Selma as well. We saw Andreas McGinnis make a couple of big plays for that defense last week, and then we all know what Cooper Pennington and Eli Holloman can do on that side of the ball as well. And I expect Anthony Palmieri to really pace this offense and continue to get them rolling ahead of a big first-round playoff game at home against Citronelle that I know they're going to want to be rested and healthy for going into that one. So I think Shelby County is going to continue boosting its confidence with this one while also getting an opportunity to get a little bit of rest ahead of that massive, massive game that I'm sure is going to have Columbia and Rock in a couple weeks.
Yeah, East Limestone's given up 36 or more in all but 2 games this season. Shelby County coming off of a bye week. They want to build that momentum and confidence back up going into the playoffs. I think they come out, go all out here in this first half. I think they build a huge lead and coast to victory from there. I think it's an easy Shelby County win. And like you said, a week later, it's going to be rocking down in Columbiana for that home playoff game. That takes us to the AISA and ACSC, and we kick off the playoffs for the ACSC, Andrew, as the Evangel Lightning host Ezekiel in a rivalry matchup to kick off the ACSC postseason there in the semifinals. Coosa Valley also coming off of a win last week, and they take on a Trinity team right here in Shelby County that should be a pretty competitive game, but also lend itself toward Coosa Valley being able to end the regular season or the season on a 2-game winning streak. So both good opportunities this week for Evangel and Coosa Valley. Let's start with Evangel and Ezekiel as they kick off the ACSC playoffs.
Yeah, playoffs start now for Evangel as they have within the past few seasons. Hosting a home playoff game, really in the driver's seat to take that ACSC title once again. And you know this team is playing its best football right now and really trending in a positive direction in the 8-man competition, which they really want to be right now going into the state playoffs and then the national tournament coming up next month as well. But you get the Ezekiel team that's been a little bit of a wild card within the past couple of seasons and played them fairly competitively as well, scoring 42 points on this usually stout Lightning defense. But Evangel's offense has just been way too good within the past few weeks. They scored 68 in this one back in the regular season, and they've been absolutely lights out to close the season against Southern Christian and East Central as well. And I really do think that positive momentum trending in that direction for them is really going to be what helps this team go out, have a massive offensive night, and be able to outpace Ezekiel in every aspect of the game for that one. I expect them to advance to another ACSC title game with ease over Ezekiel.
Yeah, I agree. I think you look at that one, and since that regular season matchup, Evangel wins 68 to 42. They've gone 3-1 since then. Ezekiel, the opposite direction's lost 2 of the last 3. I think Evangel wins that one as well.
Definitely. And then we shift over to the AISA as well. We get a Coosa Valley team that is playing its last regular season game here against the Trinity side that's been winless on the season. Really have nothing much to speak for in the momentum side as well. Not really able to put up that many points as well. And when I look at what this Coosa Valley offense is able to do, what it was able to do last week against Meadowview, be able to come from behind and take that victory over the Trojans in that one. And as I keep harkening back to, they've set a school record in points earlier this season against North River as well. So they can attack some really suspect teams with a lot of aggressiveness and be able to come out with a victory. And I do think that that's what's going to happen here. I think this Rebels team is going to be incredibly motivated to use this game to come out, make a statement, end their season strong, and be able to build off of it going into the offseason, into next season, because ultimately that's what a program like this needs. It's momentum and some more continuity going into next season. I think a win like here, getting them to 3 wins on the season would be a step in the right direction for this program.
Yeah, coming off 48 to 44 victory over Meadowview last week, now get a chance to end with 2 in a row over this winless Trinity team, and Trinity fell to Meadowview 52 to 12 earlier in the season. So expect Coosa Valley to come out, put forth a strong effort here, and finish the season with a 2-game win streak and 3 wins this season. Something that shows this team can start to put some things together and possibly build for the future if they can keep a core nucleus of players together moving into next season. So we expect fully Evangel to take down Ezekiel, advance to the ACSC state championship, and for the Coosa Valley Rebels to finish the season with a 2-game winning streak. That takes us to our SCR Stars of the Week segment, and yet again, as we close down region play last week, several big-time performances that we need to highlight. But first, we got to highlight one of our biggest stars right here in Shelby County, and that's Bertoloni's right there off of I-65 in Calera, one of the best Italian restaurants in the state of Alabama. They've been voted Shelby Living's best pizza, date night restaurant, and upscale restaurant, all right here in 2024. It is an incredible environment, incredible food, family atmosphere. Make sure you visit and check out why Sonia Bertoloni and her family are so beloved with what they've done right there at Bertoloni's in Calera. You can dine in for that cozy, warm atmosphere, get a really good Italian dinner, date night, whatever it may be. Get your family out there. It's going to be a special time. You can get those traditional Italian dishes, spaghetti and meatballs, chicken parmesan, ravioli, whatever it may be. They've got it right there at Bertoloni's, but they've also got those incredible pizzas that are to die for. Some of the best pizzas around Shelby County and in the state of Alabama. You want to visit them for just that alone, if not to try all of their other amazing dishes as well. They've got great sandwiches and anything else you could think of. And you also can't forget about the cake. Their cake is incredible. They've got that strawberry cake that they're known for. They've got seasonal options as we hit fall, as you hit winter. And they've got a bunch of other delicious traditional cake flavors that you'll want to test out there. You can get them by the slice. You can get them whole. Whatever floats your boat, they're going to take care of you with any of your food needs, whether it's Italian cuisine, whether it's the sweet tooth in you with those delicious cake slices. They're going to get you taken care of. They've also got that full bar with craft cocktails and a great wine selection. Make sure you give them a visit right there off of I-65 in Calera. You can give them a call, 205-664-8780, 205-664-8780. But you can also visit that brand new website with online ordering. Get those family meals. It's going to take care of you for several days with the family during a busy time of year as you get to the ball fields and get to practice and games and whatever it may be. They're going to take care of you with those family meals. You can order those at Bertolonis.com. It's Bertoloni's right there in Calera. And Andrew, that takes us to our SCR Stars of the Week. We've got a great list, so why don't you kick it off for us?
Yeah, I'm going to kick it off with a man who is also making some things happen in Calera this week, and that was Dom Santiago, a kid who I had the absolute pleasure of watching on Friday night, stepping up for an injured Jeremy Spratling as the Huskies hold a little bit back ahead of the playoffs. But he proved once again why we really need to see what's going on in Helena to make them have so many good running backs and offensive linemen, because this team continues year in and year out to have multiple great options in the backfield. I think you mentioned last week Santiago could go for about $150 on any given night. He went for $2.50. Yep. 251 yards and 5 touchdowns off of just 13 carries. Was really working well off that outside run, and really just taking the fight to the Eagles throughout the night. And even coming, he did all of his damage before the third quarter was even out. So even more impressive stats for him. And I want to mention a couple of big offensive performances as well from the Oak Mountain Eagles. Will Odell had a phenomenal all-purpose night. Obviously, you have those two big turnovers in there as well, but what he did other than that was incredible. 17 for 25 passing for 325 yards and 3 passing touchdowns. I said 2 interceptions, I meant 3. And he also rushed for 2 touchdowns on the ground with 107 rushing yards as well. So all in all, close to 450 all-purpose yards and 5 touchdowns. So a phenomenal night for Will Odell, all things considered. And Zach Fitzgerald made the most of his 5 receptions, going for 174 yards and a touchdown. Continues to establish himself as his team's top receiver in the absence of Sean Ray. Has really proved out and stepped up in a big role this season, and he's definitely got some big things ahead for him in the future. So big shout out to Zach Fitzgerald, Will Odell, and Dom Santiago, 3 of my 4 stars this week. And for my 4th one, we're going to go down to AISA 8-man play as well. The Cornerstone Chargers, we could have gone with a plethora of people from this one. They score a school record 88 points on the scoreboard, 702 yards of total offense. So a huge night for the Chargers, but we have to highlight Zeke Adams because his stat line was absolutely insane this past week. 8 for 18 passing with 168 yards passing and 3 touchdowns, and then on the ground went for about double that. 22 attempts for 331 yards, 6 touchdowns along with 4 2-point conversions, and then on the defensive end, 2 tackles for loss, 10 tackles and 2 tackles for loss, an interception, and a sack. So you put all those things together, that's about 500 yards of all-purpose yards and 9 touchdowns that he is responsible for this cornerstone team. He is a big reason why this team is absolutely rolling heading into the playoffs. Big nights as well from players like Hampton Etheridge, Noah Schober as well, but Zeke Adams really comes out and takes the cake on this one to get a star of the week.
Yeah, strong list of stars there as they continue to step up in big ways this season. I'm going to start out at Thompson High School, a game I got to see last week, and the passing game showed back up. After doing it a couple of weeks ago, it was back again this week in this game against Prattville. 23 of 32, 368 yards and 5 touchdowns for Trent Seaburn. Most of that in the first half. 99% of that was in the first half, and he had one 50-yard touchdown pass called back not called back, it was a pass interference called, but clearly a reception and a completed pass. The ref just literally said, didn't see the football, so I can't call it a touchdown. Well, we have video evidence. Several others did too. It was a touchdown. So we're going to say that Trent Seaburn went over 400 yards there with a big 6-touchdown performance for the Thompson Warriors. Darian Mosley continuing to step up in a big way at the receiver position, 131 yards, 3 touchdowns on 7 receptions in that one. Big time showing there. And R.J. Evans, really a dual threat kind of guy at the running back position. They can spread him out wide. He can run the football as well. He had 123 receiving yards and 64 rushing yards in that game for the Thompson Warriors, and a strong offensive showing in that dominant effort against Prattville. And the other two that continue to be strong connection this year, that's Brock Bradley and Corey Barber out at Spain Park. And Brock Bradley 16 to 22, 223 yards there for the Jaguars as they get off to that first 9-0 start in school history. And he and Corey Barber have just been nonstop connected all season long. Barber 11 catches, 153 yards in that one at the receiver position for the Jags. So that duo continues to play well. They've got others out there that can make big-time plays as well. And we really hadn't heard much about Dakari Shanks and CJ Calley the last couple of weeks. So watch out for this Spain Park offense because, man, they're going to be balanced once we get into the postseason. But that does it for this week's SCR Stars of the Week. A great group, a great list of names, and some unbelievable stats there that I expect we're going to have some more big-time performances here during the final week of the regular season, but also as we build into the playoffs. That brings us to the end of this week's Shelby County High School football show. We got a big week in store, Andrew, the final week of the regular season. Some teams playing for it all this week, some teams playing for the future and what they're going to have in the playoffs here in a couple of weeks. What's the one thing that sticks out to you? What's the bold prediction this week as we head into this final week of the regular season?
Well, I think there's plenty of opportunities across the board for bold predictions. I really do think that this is a slate across the board that lends itself to big statements from our county teams. You leaned with the Pelham Panthers last week in your bold prediction. I think I'm going to go to that well this week and say that Fort Payne game is another one-score game. At the end of the day, I really do think this Pelham team trending in the right direction, and I think if Fort Payne does choose to take a little bit of an easier approach to this one, I think Pelham's going to find a ton of opportunities for success.
Give me Briarwood by 3 touchdowns
against
McAdory. I'm feeling confident in the Briarwood Lions right now, and why wouldn't you? With how they've played the last several weeks. So great opportunity for them against McAdory this week to really close down the season in a big way for the Lions as they go into the off season. But across the board, I mean, Oak Mountain Chelsea right here behind us, going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait to see that one. Spain Park at Gardendale, looking for that first undefeated regular season. Calera, Stanhope, Pelham, Fort Payne, Briarwood, McAdory, Vincent, Montevallo, Shelby County East, Limestone, and then the AISA and ACSC games across the board. Just a great week on a week that typically isn't that big because region plays behind us. I think this is going to be a fun one. I think we're going to get some entertaining football games. I'll be right here on this field behind me. Can't wait for the rivalry battle between Chelsea and Oak Mountain. Going to be a lot of fun here at Herbmont Park on Friday night for one of our many, many big games that we've got to close down the regular season. Until then, that's going to do it for this week's Shelby County High School football show. Alongside Andrew Simonson, I am Alec Etheridge. We'll see you all on Friday night.